Welcome to the Intuitive Therapist Podcast with Janis Cohen, therapist, clairvoyant, empath, and medium. Listen in as she takes a no-nonsense deep dive into real human struggles and how to resolve them. Janis will share channeled information from her spirit guide team, as well as the angels and archangels, to help you master your emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual destiny. And now, Janis Cohen.
Hey y'all, this is Janis Cohen, the Intuitive Therapist here on the Intuitive Therapist Podcast. When I was thinking about what to talk about today, I kind of pulled from things that been going through, and one of them is this concept of faith. And so the title for today is called What Pure Faith Does for You. So I just want to share some ideas that I have and take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And it's okay if you disagree. I'm good with that. So when I first began to gather my thoughts about this topic, I began to think about what faith actually is and how many people don't have it. Now, it's not a criticism. I've had many times in my life, many times, where I've looked at my outer world, the conditions of it, and said, screw faith. How can I have faith when I can't seem to get my life on track? Or I can't seem to get my business where I want it to be? Or I keep meeting shitty romantic partners? Or a multitude of other personal challenges that I've encountered. And if I'm reaching out on a limb here, well, that's just what I'll have to be doing, because I bet that at least one time or another in your life, you too have had your faith shaken, or your lack of faith has been reinforced because of your life conditions. And it's taken me many years to cultivate pure faith in my life. And it's different than faith or kind of just believing. Pure faith is something entirely different. And I'll share what my concept and definition of pure faith is with you in a minute. But suffice it to say, I've been one of the naysayers at times when it comes to having faith. And there have been many times where I've doubted that a higher power, God, or source, or whatever you choose to refer to, that big almighty, even existed, because I felt like life was shitty and it was happening at me and to me. I didn't even at times believe I was supported. You see, I was raised believing that there was a God, or shall I say believing in God. And my Jewish tradition seemed to support the existence of God. God is the centerpiece in our life, and we have, as Jewish people, we are taught that we have a direct connection with God and there's no intermediary. And yet, in truth, this concept of God's existence, it belongs to all of us. I and all of us, though, have had to cultivate my own relationship with God. And there are people out there who don't believe that God exists, and that's no problem for me. There are people out there who believe that only their God is the only God that exists. And again, no problem. You are entitled to believe what you want to believe. I have no problem with people who have differing beliefs from me. That's just what makes the world the beautiful place that it is that there's polarity and difference. And as I reflect on growing up, becoming a young adult, and then maturing into adulthood, my faith in God has been tested over and over and over again. And now I get it. You see, in my opinion, faith is an actual tangible thing. And you might disagree with me, and guess what? I'm cool with that too. But I really do believe it's a tangible thing. And for me, developing faith has been a process, because I used to blame God for all the shit that went wrong in my life, as if I had nothing to do with the quality of my life. And boy, was I wrong. You know, I believe that God is good and that people do bad things, that we all have free will, and that free will impacts our quality of life in a positive or negative way. And I also believe that our souls are here for particular reasons, and those reasons are very particular for each person. So my relationship with God has been tested a lot. Has yours? If so, when? And did you discover why? When I think about having faith in God, I've come to know that it is very personal. How we connect to God is also very personal. And I know that faith either exists or it doesn't. It's completely black and white, in my opinion. You either believe that you're supported all of the time, that God has your back, that whatever happens in your life is happening for you, or you don't. And it took me decades to finally take that concept in. You see, it took me decades, many decades, to cultivate my own relationship with God, and that meant letting go of this idea that I had that God allows bad things to happen. And it wasn't until I found myself that I found God. And it wasn't until I found God that I cultivated faith. And when I cultivated faith, my life became better, much better. I know now that practicing full faith in God means that I practice full faith in myself. They're synonymous. They're mutually exclusive. You cannot have one without the other. So how do you develop faith in the first place and then evolve it into pure faith? Well, it starts with you. Do you believe in yourself? I mean, do you truly believe in yourself, in your ability to achieve what you want, in your ability to become the person who deserves what you want? Do you realize how you are the common denominator in the quality of your life? Do you observe your life and learn from it? Or do you see what happens outside of you as something that you aren't a part of? Faith is synonymous with trust. And you can't have faith if you aren't able to trust. And if you don't feel safe enough to trust yourself, you can't trust anything outside of you. That's why I hear often, I can't trust anyone. Well, you don't trust anyone because you don't trust yourself. And how have you cultivated self-trust? Have you tried? That took me a long time to do that too, to trust myself. And I truly didn't until a few years ago. It was a mystery to me about how to do that. And the funny thing is that as I look back on my life, I didn't know how to form a loving relationship with myself. I didn't know how to create my own sense of internal safety. And that's when I talk about trusting yourself, I mean that. So I felt the world and God kept screwing me with all the challenging shit that I've had to face. How often do you feel that God and the world keep screwing you? Over the years, as I've cultivated faith in God, I've evolved. And once I realized that I could change my life by first practicing fidelity to myself, in other words, not betraying me, then life became easier, and I didn't need to have any of those outside messengers betray me anymore. So I learned that people that I attracted into my life over the years who screwed me over and hurt me were the messengers. And that if I didn't learn from the first experience, well, there was a whole cosmic lineup of more severe experiences waiting for me to go through so that I'd finally step up and believe in myself. And once I got sick and tired of being taken advantage of being really naive to how this earthly school works, really, that's when life began to change for me. I began to take matters into my own hands, sort of a vigilante for myself. not hurting anybody, but really taking care of my side of the street. And I began to make some very significant decisions in my own life on my own behalf that allowed me to create internal safety for myself. Decisions like, I'm going to trust my gut the first time and pay attention to red flags when they first show up. This was one of the biggest ones I had to make. And I had to get pushed to a point where either I make this decision or I continue to suffer. And I wonder if it's a big one for you. Once I committed to myself, once I committed to putting me first and practicing fidelity to myself, then I could make room for God and faith in myself and in the goodness of God. Faith, in my opinion, is a necessary and pivotal part of life. And if you don't have it, you can tend to feel lost. And if you do have it, and it's healthy faith, not fundamentalist, crazy bullshit, Bible-thumping crap, then you feel grounded, protected, supported, worthy, and you're not hiding behind words in a book and feeling above other people, but real, true faith. And over the past year, I've had this one word taped to the side of my computer screen. And I do this because there are days still where I doubt. I doubt myself. I doubt parts of my life. I doubt and doubt and doubt. And as I evolve, I will continue to face the fears and doubts, and that just is part of it all. And the word that's taped to my computer is trust. It's a big word, carries a lot of weight for me, because I am constantly guided to look at that word and fall into trust. And when I mention that faith is tangible, I mean that when I really lean into this one word, when I try it on, when I swallow it, when I feel it, I start to relax. And that's the tangibility of it. I start to feel it. And I can feel how when I ingest that word, that I really feel it in all the cells and fibers of my being. Trust. That means I don't have to do all this shit on my own. That means that I don't have to solve all my problems on my own. That I don't have to think through everything. That if I trust that the universe has my back, then you know what? I can fucking relax. And then I can wait for answers. And that I don't have to push or rush or be desperate. That I just trust. And I don't have to fight against the world because I get to rely on God to lead me. And one of the ways that I've gotten really good at doing this is when I do psychic and mediumship readings with my clients. And I've learned to put my ego aside and open up and channel. And none of this is of me, the things I channel. Rather, it's through me that the information is shared. And I have to have pure faith in order for me to channel for others. You can't be faithless and do God's work. It's impossible. And I have to believe that when I get messages, that they're meant to be shared in the exact way that the person needs to hear them. Trust. Fully. Faith. Fully. So how do you cultivate faith when your mind can't wrap its head around being terminally ill or having an autoimmune disease that prevents you from doing things other people do, or being paralyzed, or losing a business, or being deeply hurt, or deeply grieving? How do you believe in a higher power, in something good, when the life that you're living, the circumstances, feels so bad? And this is what came through for you. You've got to figure out how to use the life you've been given to grow. You've also got to use the pain in ways that benefit others, because it's not yours to suffer alone with, and we're not here to suffer. Bad shit's going to happen to you. Bad shit happens to all of us. And yet we hear of horrific things happening to people, and they overcome. They become purposeful with their pain. They develop faith in themselves, and they develop faith in God, because they know that once they relax and lean into the greater power, that's what got them out of their trouble in the first place. They finally realize that their pain doesn't come to punish them, but as a springboard for them to rise up and be better, greater, and more loving to themselves and to others. Faith matters when you want to lead a solid, grounded life. And when you stop thinking all the freaking time and you begin to allow for a relationship to grow between you and whatever you call your higher power, then you change the game. Hard shit's hard. Painful shit's painful. And you're left with the decision to be bitter and destroyed by it, or to use it and become purposeful with it. Cultivate trust in yourself. And that means that you don't allow people to treat you poorly anymore. You develop boundaries and self-respect. You stick to your convictions. And you learn to eliminate the expectations that you have of others. And you learn to detach from outcomes. You remain present. You develop a practice of plugging in and connecting to the higher source on a regular basis. And you trust that what is meant for you will come. That what's in your heart to have, those things that you want, are bound to be yours when you believe wholeheartedly that they already are there for you, that they already belong to you. Faith means that you still believe that what you want is yours to have. When you have faith, it means that you still believe that what you want is that what you want is still going to be the case, even far past the human deadline you've set for it to happen. That's pure faith. Trust yourself, and you can trust God. Trust God, and what's meant for you will come. Allow, receive, then take guided action, and watch how your life does a 180. I hope this has been a helpful message for you. I feel like that more and more I'm being guided to share messages, and I don't always know what's going to come through. And I feel like the reason why this came through is because there are a lot of people out there who need to hear this, that that having faith in God will never leave you feeling empty. Ever. And I hope that you are able to establish the very first step, which is to cultivate faith and trust in yourself. And if you look back at your life, you have to believe that there are times where you trusted yourself and you had faith in yourself. And maybe you've been knocked off a bit of your trajectory, and you have experienced detours in your life that you don't quite understand. And so your job is to lean back into the trust in yourself that you can handle what comes, that faith is yours for the taking. And once you trust yourself that you can take one step after the other, because that's really what this is all about. You just take one step after the other, that you build that currency within you, and then you can handle bigger things. And you know what? When you develop faith in yourself, the trust in God is automatic. I wish you a wonderful day, a blessed week, and as always, live intuitively.
Thanks for listening to The Intuitive Therapist. If you like what you heard, the best compliment you can give us is to share this podcast with a friend. And be sure to give us some stars and a favorable review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in.